You hear that? It's me rubbing my hands together, licking my lips. I got my fork and my knife and my big cartoonish bib tied around my neck because it's time to dig into some numbers. It is time for the quarterly financial report from Nintendo, but this one is particularly exciting because it is a financial report not just for the quarter, but one capping off the entire fiscal year running through the end of March this year. It's not quite as exciting as possible. I think the very next one that we get is going to be very exciting because that'll show us a full calendar year of the Switch 2's life. But this is still really, really nice. Lots of good stuff to dig into. And I'm kind of a poser. If I were really into numbers, I'd be talking about like the profit and stuff. I don't know. When I start looking at those numbers, my brain just kind of turns to putty, you know, because there's just like all the different ways of looking at the profit and versus revenue. And it's across all of their products. So like if they had, you know, like the movie come out, then that quarter is going to be more. And then you yen to dollars. I don't know. I'm just not going to do it. Like they made a bunch of money. Who cares? Obviously, they made a tremendous amount of money during the fiscal year that they launched new hardware. Yes, they did well. Mostly, though, I just want to look at the games and the system numbers. And I was so intensely curious to know how well the Switch 2 would sell after the holiday season. It had a very good holiday season. It was a little bit slower than Nintendo anticipated, but it was still very good. It had sold about 16 million units through the end of the holiday. And then since then, we didn't know if it was going to like kind of drop after that. You know, holidays are over, not a lot of like really big hard-hitting titles. But no, momentum has been pretty darn good. As of the end of March, the Switch 2 has sold 19.86 million, no doubt has soared past 20 million by now here in May. So just shy of 20 million, and their forecast was 19 million. So it cleared their forecast by nearly a whole million, and that forecast was raised. It was initially lower, so they raised it to 19, and they still beat it quite cleanly. So yeah, no, even just in the months since the holidays, Switch 2 has been selling pretty okay. And this was actually a better launch year than usual, than they would usually expect. You know, I think mainly just because they supplied so many consoles. They saw like really, really solid numbers tracking above the Switch. However, as we discussed in the other video on how they are increasing the price, unfortunately, they do believe that this is going to have a pretty significant impact on their sales. Generally, the second year of a system's life is when it sees higher sales because, yeah, like the games start hitting, and if a system launches partway through a year, you don't even get like the full year, you know, like, yeah, it's still not even been a complete calendar year, 365 days of Switch 2. So usually the second year would be higher than the first year. However, this time, despite the fact that they had an unusually high first year, yeah, they are anticipating that the price increases are going to lower sales. And I don't know, I'm almost surprised to see. I mean, you know, obviously they know a lot more than I do. Like they've got like analysts and stuff. I am like, I don't know how much the price increase is going to affect sales, yet they're being very, very conservative here with their numbers. They lowered their forecast for this upcoming fiscal year to 16.5 million. And yeah, like if you consider year 2 is usually bigger, and this year was 20 million, next year is going to be a full 365 days, bringing it down to 16.5. Like, yeah, that seems very, very conservative to me. I don't know if they just really want to play it safe. Maybe they're, you know, on the inside in their heart of hearts, maybe they are more confident that it'll do better than that. But it's like, it's better to kind of play it safe. You know, this isn't the time to be like super bold and then things get worse and prices go up and then it ends up impacting. Like, you don't want to miss the forecast. You know, I think it's all for show anyway. Like, why do you even have a forecast? It's for show. It's to keep the investors happy. So yeah, keep it like relatively low. 16.5 would still be a really good second year. And if they exceed it, then, oh, well, look at that. Despite difficult market conditions, we managed to exceed our forecast by yada yada. So yeah, I don't know. It's been selling despite a relative lack of really big hitting titles, but raising the price by $50, at least here in the US, I don't know. That may do it. Is that the breaking point for a lot of people? I don't know. You know, we still, like, there are a lot of games coming this year, but still not a lot that are like sure to be like these big craze on a new Zelda, a new Mario or whatever, and Pokemon's not coming this year. So I don't know. I'm still pretty much each time they release one of these reports, I'm just like, just the story, the saga of how much the Switch 2 is going to sell. There's just so much to consider. I kind of find it fascinating. And then, you know, may as well mention the good old Switch, long in tooth as it be. This last quarter, it really did not sell very much at all, like way under 1 million right now. It's at 155.92, so like almost at 156. They're thinking they might ring out a couple more million in the next year, but if prices keep going up and if the Switch 2 keeps selling pretty strong, then yeah, I don't know. I think this really is the time when the Switch is gonna peter out pretty dramatically. I don't know. I don't know if we're beating PS2, folks. I hope so, but we'll see. But that's it for the hardware. Let's talk about games. Undoubtedly, the biggest release of the year so far is Pokopia, and it managed to sell over 4 million units in 5 weeks, and it's probably sold a pretty okay amount since then. That was just 5 weeks. That was before the fiscal year ended. And it's funny because this game is resonating so strongly with people, myself included. Like, I cannot say enough good things about the game. Like, I think it's one of the best games Pokemon has ever put out, full stop, including the mainline games. And so, like, my knee-jerk reaction was to see 4 million and be like, I thought it would be higher. You know, like, it's just, like, I don't know. I'm expecting, like, a 2020 Animal Crossing breakout hit. Like, obviously not that crazy, but, like, I don't know. I really think this series has just so much potential. But no, like, that really is a really good number of units. And in fact, look at the other games on Switch 2 and how they're selling. You know what else sold about 4 million units? Legends ZA. In fact, Legends ZA, as of, you know, the end of March, when they generated the numbers for this financial report, ZA is actually just not quite managed to crack 4 million units on Switch 2 specifically. Obviously on regular Switch, 8.85 million, so a much greater total overall. But Pokopia is a Switch 2 exclusive. So, like, yeah, like, it's always been this question, like, how is this game gonna perform versus the mainline games? Because, you know, it is technically a spin-off, and yet it is so appealing and it is so resonating with people. And so now seeing that, like, at least among just Switch 2 players, Pokopia has sold more than an actual mainline game. Now, like, obviously if Pokopia had released on both systems, that would kind of throw this off. And I know Legends ZA, it's debatable whether you'd consider it mainline, the Legends games. They still sell really, really, really well. But not quite on the level of, like, the turn-based games. You know, they say it's mainline, but it is kind of different. So, like, yeah, overall, it's going to see fewer sales than, like, a regular one. But, like, among Switch 2 owners, the really hardcore Pokemon fans who are going to buy the Pokemon games for the Switch 2, because, yeah, the install base is only 20 million right now. It's only 20 million. I mean, you know, that's a good number, but, like, not all of those people are Pokemon fans. And yet, among them, a little under 4 million bought ZA, because they're not going to buy the Switch 1 version, you know, if they have a Switch 2. So, like, that right there, that's the Pokemon playing populace, the Switch 2 owners. And Pokopia sold a little over 4 million. It actually beat Legends ZA. So I have no doubt in my mind that this game is gonna have legs. Now, it's gonna be a different story if they release a sequel in, like, 3 years, which is probably going to happen. It probably is inevitable, and at that point, then this game will probably stop selling. But yeah, I don't know. At least until that point, and until we're given a reason to not buy it, I I think it's just gonna keep selling as the Switch 2 gets in more people's hands. I really think this is gonna be something. Maybe it still won't sell quite as well as like a full regular traditional mainline title. You know, clearly it didn't really like boost sales of the Switch 2 itself too much. I mean, like it could be a good amount. Like there were a good number of a good few million units during that first 3 months of the year. A lot of that could have just been Pokopia. Yeah, I don't know how much further it will take the Switch 2 itself. We don't have numbers for past March, so for all we know, it's still selling and it's still selling Switch 2s. I really don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. Pokopia is over 4 million in just however many weeks, and it's gonna keep selling. It's going to keep selling. If it had sold less than 4 million, you know, 2 or 3, then, you know, I'd be like, okay, maybe it, you know, not as big of a deal as I expected, but just seeing that it's in line with the numbers for Legend ZA on Switch 2, I think that right there is kind of a signal. You know, that's kind of like, okay, well, right now, out of 20 million Switch 2 owners, 4 million are Pokemon fans, and they bought both games pretty much evenly across the board. Pokopia actually ahead. I don't know. I think that's fascinating. Anyway, speaking of Pokemon, we now also have numbers for Fire Red and Leaf Green. And, you know, personally, I felt the price was a little bit high for what you're getting. I didn't know if maybe that would impact sales. It did not. It still sold very, very, very well. Between those two games, they also sold over 4 million units in 6 weeks. And I can't even, like, it's one thing to, like, spend however many, like, millions of dollars on a game, and then you sell however many millions of units, and you still make, like, a lot of money. But when you just look at, like, profit for money spent, you know, like, slap it. I know they didn't, like, literally just, like, slap the ROMs on there. There's, like, something different about, but, like, for the most part, it's a couple of GBA ROMs, and they sold 4 million copies at $20 a pop. I just like that. Yeah, just like the return on investment there. That's just crazy. It's kind of like how was it Paranormal Activity, the first one? It was just like, it was technically like the most profitable film of all time, just because it was so cheap to cost like $30,000 to make, and made like however many, like $100 million or whatever. So like the percentage, the return on investment was just so high. It was like technically the most successful movie ever made. That's how I'm feeling about these Pokemon games here. Like that's the good stuff. That's what a company wants to see, you know? And then as for another notable recent release, we have Tomodachi Life. I mean, is shocked too strong a word? I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. Obviously I have like nothing against the game. And I know that the 3DS one did really well. But like, I feel like it's just kind of niche. It's just so like silly. It's just so like perfect that Nintendo's like smaller projects, and they're really funny and they're really silly and they're really, really great. They just don't usually reach like a super duper wide audience. And it did well on the 3DS, but like that was so long ago, you know. Sometimes it's all about the context, the historical context. Like this game came out at just the right time, just on the right platform. You can't always recreate that success. So my expectations for Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream, were not super high. I thought it would sell like a couple million. You know, it'd do well. It'd turn a profit, but like 3.8 million? 3.8 million, and it's not even been out for very long. If it's got any legs whatsoever, it's easily gonna cross the 4 million mark. I don't know. That's really good. I'm really, really happy for Tomodachi Life and for fans of Tomodachi Life, because yeah, like even if it barely touches the original in terms of sales, like whatever, like that's still a crazy, crazy good amount. That's still a very, very successful, very profitable game. So like, wow, yeah, just good job. Really, really good job. And you know what's really interesting? Apparently 40% of players are on Switch 2. 40%. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, you know, the Switch 1 has the higher install base. It is technically a Switch 1 game. I have to imagine it probably just comes down to the fact that, like, out of the 155 point whatever 8 0.92 million Switch owners, not all of them are going to be as active, maybe, whereas like Switch 2 owners are like, they're more active, they're buying the new games, they want something to play on their Switch 2. I don't know what it is, but yeah, nearly half of players are playing on Switch 2 despite the much smaller install base. So that is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Whole thing doing really, really well. Maybe I just underestimated the appeal of Mii's. I think maybe Nintendo has underestimated the appeal of Mii's. Kane is like trying to push me to do a video on it, how like they kind of forgot about Mii's for a while. And like, is this just like proof to Nintendo? Like, look, no, we still think it's really funny to like make Mii's of our friends and do weird stuff with them, you know, like just like we still just make celebrities fall in love. Like this is a good formula right here. That is all the data we have on recently released games. You may notice some omissions, one particularly large omission, a recently released game that for some reason does not seem to be accounted for in the financial report. Strange, but we'll have to talk about that in another video, the one that I record immediately after this one. But as for other IP leveraging multimedia endeavors, the Super Mario Galaxy movie made over 800 million in 4 weeks. So again, with the whole like earnings thing, that has certainly helped the bottom line a good bit, almost $1 billion. And you know, like that definitely is less. I mean, like technically that's 4 weeks. I don't know if it's still in theaters. I would imagine that's probably about it. I would imagine it's probably not going to make much more than that. I mean, like, yeah, these days, like movies barely even, I feel like they don't stay in theaters super duper long. I don't have the exact numbers, but it feels like they go quick. Maybe I'm just old and time goes by faster. They want to get it to streaming like as fast as possible. But even if we say it's just gonna cap off at 800 million, like, yes, that is a smaller number than the $1.3 billion that the first movie made. But I don't know. I think that is a very expected drop of the sequel. Yeah, like however many people who saw the first movie didn't really like it, weren't gonna come and see the second movie. Like, you're gonna get a drop like that with a sequel. I feel like that's completely to be expected. And also that's still like if you want to talk numbers that would scare them into like reconsidering making more movies, we're nowhere close. We're nowhere close. This is still many hundreds of millions of dollars in pure, tasty, delicious profit. So I'm not them. I don't know what they're feeling right now, but I feel like that they've got to still be pretty happy with that. Yeah, it looks like the budget was 110 million, and according to this, it's reached over 900 million by now. Okay, I don't know which number to believe, but yeah, with a budget of 110, even if you follow like the basic rule of thumb where you double the budget after like marketing and everything, 220 million, 800. Yeah, no, that's still. Let me do the math. That's a crazy hugemundo amount of money. So that's basically it for this quarter, this fiscal year's financial report. Super fun, super interesting numbers to look at. And then in 3 months, we will finally have it. We will have our picture, our beautiful painting of the entire first year of the Switch 2's existence. That will be very fun. But in the meantime, you keep on brushing your teeth every day, no skipping, twice. You gotta floss too. I know it's hard, it's annoying, it kind of hurts, especially when you don't do it a lot. And if you get I got a big bag of flossers and they're way too thick. It's like double for some reason. There's like 2 of them, but it's also just too thick. It's hard to get in there. I don't like it, but I bought the whole bag. What am I gonna do? Throw it away? I'm not gonna throw it away. I gotta use them, but it's really difficult to get it in there. But I do it anyway. You gotta do it anyway. At least a couple times a week. At least a couple times. Yes, I have teeth. Yes, I have teeth. How do you think I eat chips?